This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. This is our trade blast for, it's actually the 17th of March today, but this blast relates to the nightmare in the markets for Tesla and others that's about to happen on the 18th. So what's kind of going on right now is that one of the things I constantly check when I deal with the stock market is what's going on with the price of oil. And I happened to glance at the Wall Street Journal this evening and looked up and noticed that oil is at $26.79. So this is huge news. The reason it's huge is that yesterday morning on Monday, when things were busy and high on the markets, oil was at like 33 bucks, 33 and a half, maybe 34. And for oil to fall 25% in 24 hours is pretty mind-blowing. So what I'm expecting to happen is that the brutality that oil is taking right now will actually possibly drop another $2,000 drop on the general stock market on Wednesday. And with some other forces in place, it wouldn't be a shocker for it to drop 3,000 points on Friday. So this is kind of an alert. I'm targeting 350 tomorrow for Tesla's stock price, and we're hoping that the number is better than that, but I just don't see how we stayed out of it in sympathy with both oil and the market falling. As you already know, one of the things we've covered a lot is the fact that oil represents approximately 25% of all of the shares outstanding in the market. So when the oil industry takes hits, it tends to bring large numbers of other entities with it, i.e. the other oil companies first, and then perhaps somewhat related firms second. So this is why you can have fairly large cuts in the stock market when oil suffers. Now, it'd be one thing if the drop below 30 was a precursor to things going back up, but Goldman Sachs actually forecasted that we're going to see a drop down to about $20 a barrel or below. And I think that not only do you have the issue of the number change, but if the trend is towards an extremely low number like 20 bucks, this adds fuel to the fire as to why it is that the market not only responds, but it responds with authority. So again, if you're a Tesla holder, if this oil news hadn't hit, I think we were good for Tesla to start bouncing back up. But Tesla has like a 100-point run daily routine that it does. And I guess I was hoping 350 would be the bottom, but man, with oil getting hit that hard sort of overnight and then heading into the trading day, I just think that I would not be shocked to see the low 300s for Tesla tomorrow. And I hope it doesn't happen, but I think it will. So I just wanted to note to you that we're in an interesting time for the stock market, and we're also an interesting time for Tesla, etc. I think it's a great time to try to hedge your position or lighten up on your ownership stake because things are so crazy. If I had better news, I would love to present it, but we tend to sort of try to give you as much information as possible to make better decisions in terms of structuring portfolios, etc. I hate to say it, but let's say the other way to follow this whole thing out is if oil hits $20 a barrel by the end of this week, and starts to flirt with 18, 20 in that range, I think that's 3,000 to 5,000 points down for the Dow. So I guess I'm sort of forecasting the fact that we're in a very bad situations. And I just think that I'm not seeing the silver lining yet. I actually wanted to do a show, planned on doing a show this evening to try to get ready for trading over the next 2 or 3 weeks for Tesla. but it's hard to focus on 2 or 3 weeks out when the current 24 and 48 hours is going nuts. So, any rate, I was kind of hoping that the show that I was going to be doing was focused on the fact that if you look at the fundamentals of how Tesla is doing and relate that to the market, so the whole thing adds up to a nice upward move on Tesla's stock price because it's been beat down so much and it's still doing well in terms of production and sales that everything should be fine. But right now, if Tesla drops to 350 tomorrow and oil prices continue to fall, and we got to 350 because oil prices were down 25% overnight, and then oil goes another 25% down into the, $20 range, plus or minus $1, that's still another, 1 to 2,000 points off the Dow. So in essence, we're chasing some very low numbers here for Tesla's stock price as well as oil prices. So can Tesla, like a phoenix, emerge from all this? Absolutely. But what it would take is actually seeing some good numbers being released early or something of that sort to get it moving again. And we know that's not happening. So I guess what I want to say is the next 24 hours, 48 hours for everybody, including Tesla, especially Tesla, is going to be very painful. And I'd love to say, guess what? There's something brilliant that I just came up with that says this ain't going to happen, and I ain't seeing it. So unfortunately, I think that's where we're at. I further have to say that I'm a bit stunned, and the reason I'm stunned is that there's a problem happening, which is that why would Saudi Arabia pick a fight with Russia when things are already horrible in terms of this, what's going on? Why not just make up and be happy now so that this thing could get cleaned up? Any rate, I will, we'll see what happens. And Leslie was right. The price of oil is going to $20. And even though I have to pay oil prices myself because I still have an ICE car, I can't say I'm happy about it. But unfortunately, we got to report the news. And, we look forward to your comments on this one, but it is kind of crazy. I think, the time for looking at possibly an upward move for Tesla, I think we're heading into that zone. So I'm hopeful that, it doesn't get too ugly here and that we can start to look forward to the northbound of this entire situation. So, I'm shaking my head because Tesla's given up a lot of market value for a lot of people. We did try to get you guys out last week. Hopefully some of you did, and I did get notes on that, and we're happy that you did. I'd say put your seatbelts on, because if oil goes where it is going currently and the trend is continued, do not be surprised to see, in essence, a very ugly market crash over the next few days. And, the desperate moves that the government making to try to hand out checks and so forth seems like a good idea, but it also, I feel like it's adding to this sense of desperation, because if the government is desperate, it sort of tells the other people everybody should be desperate. So I just think that there's a collection of information that's on the flow here that is, a combo that is sort of not in the best interest of anybody. So I would say I can see now why the people, one of the data points we threw out was there was an article about the fact that there are a lot of wealthy folks in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, in essence, the folks who control the banks, and they are actually going and getting gold. They're actually going and cleaning out Bank of America of $100 bills. And so I just think that we're in kind of a zany zone right now where I'm not saying the market's going to, well, I guess I am saying it might crash, but in general, you kind of slow down the crash with the circuit breakers they have. But I don't think this is good. And I think that I'm looking forward to where the slowdown / stop of this is. And I actually think it might be lurking in the fact that the Saudis and the Russians get together and maybe cut a deal. But if they don't cut a deal, they're going for a price war, and that's between $15 and $20 a barrel for a price war. And if they do that, it's going to sort of just decimate entities rely upon making money on the price of oil. So, I would say, but batten down the hatches, because we're about to see something that's very ugly from the stock market. And we will get relief, I think, from Tesla as we head into the numbers, but not until then. Now, there's one other thing that I wanted to sort of relate, and that is the fact that there's some interesting things developing with Tesla. The first thing is we're heading to numbers that are going to be impacted by China, and it looks like China is producing pretty well, especially with all the coronavirus precautions that they've taken. So that's great. One of the other things that I see coming in that nobody really can put a number on, and if I had a camera on the factory line, I could really tell you the answer to this. But it was just announced probably 3 months ago that Tesla had built or completed another line that would be handling Model Y production. And so one of the mysteries there is that if you already had a Model 3 line that was capable of producing Y and 3, and then you came up with a new Model Y line, what does that mean? And for me, what that means is that we're seeing a lot of Model Ys produced that wouldn't have been there without that line. Now, I think Model Y is big because it's basically $4,000 more per vehicle for the Model Y than they were getting for the Model 3. So not only does China improve the numbers, but we also get better numbers coming out of the current factory from the switch to Model Y. So what I'm looking for here then is, not only good numbers, maybe great numbers from Tesla, because they sell fewer Model 3s and more Model Ys, and the result is higher revenue profit, both from the United States and new numbers from China that add to the US numbers that I think, make everything look great. So I'm working hard to try to avoid finance information and stuff that drives us towards becoming a finance channel rather than a Tesla channel. But unfortunately, the recent events sort of force us in that direction. So what I am looking forward to preparing for is another show that we're focused on, what happens with Tesla and how important the new earnings coming are relative to it being added to the S&P is kind of a big deal. So, we're going to start doing shows sort of down the lane of how to prepare and be organized for that. So we look forward to getting you, as much information as possible as it comes. Obviously, because we did our trade blast tonight, we won't be doing one tomorrow morning, because I think that, as I go back and look at CNBC or some of the other screens relative to what's going on in other markets, we should be able to see all the action I just described showing up in the form of, lower market activity in those places. So I think it's unfortunate, but it's the nature of the animal right now. I want to thank all of you for the comments that you shared. We look forward to your comments post-show. Just a reminder, we're doing extra shows for the folks on Patreon, as well as other posts that I think would be useful. So if you'd like more information, please take time to like and subscribe. There's a question that was just posed and relative to Tesla shutting down in Fremont as they did in China. I just read that Tesla just adopted many of the same virus prevention techniques in Fremont as they had in China, and that it should help in terms of reduction of chances of issues there. So I actually think the plant will stay up, and obviously you can't produce anything if it's closed. And they're being very aggressive about instituting processes that are beyond what's required by the U.S. And in all likelihood, we should expect other factories to start adopting the same thing. A quick footnote here is that I now have some good friends in Detroit that are heavily involved in the auto business, and I just learned that the UAW and those guys along with the auto companies, are having a meeting this evening regarding shutting down the auto plants in Detroit. And I guess the auto companies want to keep them open, the employees don't. They've got a Dearborn Ford plant that has an employee that has the coronavirus, and the concern was that other union workers would suffer the same fate. So this is going to be another, that's all we need right now, is for another company that's operating, that has product being produced that people want to buy, to shut down, early. Yeah. So, any rate, we're in a crazy zone, is all I can say, and it's unfortunate, but I do think that we're about to see some real ugliness, round 3 or 4, whatever it is. And I can't recommend buying in yet for Tesla, because I think the down department is still pretty strong right now, and therefore it's kind of a good idea to protect yourself. At any rate, I want to thank you for taking time out to join us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, German. Au revoir, French, Lihitrot, Hebrew, Choda, Hafez, Farsi. Zdravstvuyte, Russian. Ni hao ma, Chinese. Hedge do, Swedish. And I still haven't learned Korean. It's, an interesting zone. I want to thank you all for taking time out to join. And please join us on Patreon if you would, because I think you'll be happy with other information provided that we don't on the main channel. Have a great evening. Thanks. Bye for now.